Plugged Inland represents KVCR's continuing interest in focusing on important issues in the inland area. Supported by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, we're looking into innovations and solutions in education as part of the American Graduate Let's Make It Happen. And you can help us make it happen. Call us anytime during the show at 866-367-5827. Or you can send questions or comments right from our website at pluggedinland.org. Or you can email us questions and comments to questions@pluggedinland.org. And you can tweet us at #KVCR. Welcome to Plugged Inland. I'm Roger Bowman. In examining the high school dropout crisis, we've omitted one important factor, that of students' other life obligations that make it hard for them to re-enter the system. Riverside County's Office of Education is succeeding with a new program called Comeback Kids that provides more flexibility to motivate re-attendees. We'll talk with the administrator of this program in a moment. But first, let's see an overview.
Riverside County Superintendent of Schools, Kenneth Young, made reducing the dropout rate in the county one of his priorities in 2008. To that end, the Riverside County Office of Education created Comeback Kids. The idea and goals behind Comeback Kids are simple. Encourage dropouts to return to school with a less structured classroom environment. The promise is one-on-one help to reach educational goals. The Comeback Kids are provided with friendly attention, individualized education plans, accredited instruction, and step-by-step guidance. In the spring of 2009, Comeback Kids celebrated its first graduate. By last year, a dozen sites throughout Riverside County offered the award-winning program. Graduates now number in the hundreds. Comeback Kids, helping dropouts rewrite their own life stories, one at a time.
With me this evening is Debra Sacks, the administrator of Comeback Kids. Also joining me is Daniel Carrillo. He's currently enrolled in Comeback Kids. Thank you both for joining me this evening. And Daniel, I know I messed up your last name. How do you pronounce it?
Daniel Carrillo.
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 But is it? It's Carrillo, I believe. Yeah, I just wasn't going to be able to do that in the open.
That's fine.
Well, I want to say thank you for joining me. I know that you've been through kind of a hard road. I want to get into that a little bit. And you're almost at the other side. You're almost ready to graduate. When do you graduate?
On May 29th at 6 o'clock.
Of this year?
Of this year.
That'll
And I'm very proud to be graduating and getting my high school diploma.
And you did it through this program from Riverside?
Yes.
So, Debra, thank you for joining us. You administer this program. You're not the principal.
Right.
You administer this program.
Exactly.
And so, tell me first, who thought of this?
Well, actually, Ken Young, our superintendent of schools for Riverside County, thought of it in 2008. He gathered a small group of us who he knew were passionate people, very interested in changing the dropout rate in our county and hoping to influence other counties across the state.
So you're saying 2008, this is a very recent program.
Absolutely.
These are tough times to start a new program in. It must have been quite brave, actually, to start a program and then fight for its funding and its growth. It's grown, has it not?
Absolutely. We've started the first year, we had 26 grads, second year 126, and then last year 176 students walked across the stage and earned their diploma.
And these are kids that otherwise probably would not have been appropriate to any of these other safety net programs.
Absolutely. There's a lot of resources and programs across the county, across the state, but sometimes they're difficult to get into, sometimes there's long waiting lists, and sometimes the criteria is so tough for students to enter. For example, if you haven't passed your KC test, we'll help you pass your KC test.
What is a KC test?
That's the California High School Exit Exam, and we will help students earn the skills to pass that test, and it is a requirement in the state of California.
To graduate, certainly, but what I think I heard from you is that passing the KC test, is it an admissions criteria in some of these programs?
Yes, absolutely. In adult schools possibly, or some continuation schools will require that for students before they register them. And so oftentimes we have students who are seniors in high school and have not quite finished those requirements, the last 10 credits, 15 credits, and the high school exit exam. So we help them with that.
Okay. I'm going to frame this again because you've just astounded me for a moment. 10 or 15 credits away.
Right.
and yet they can't finish up in the current system. Why is that? Is there a problem with fifth-year students?
Yes. Actually, it's a 4-year program in most school districts.
Regular high schools.
Regular high school. And continuation school as well. There are some districts who allow a 5th-year time for students to work on credits, but generally speaking, it's the 4 years, or you go to adult school, or you choose another pathway. And we are that other pathway now for a lot of young people.
You talked about adult schools. What's the difference between Comeback Kids and the typical adult school?
Okay, Comeback Kids is a high school diploma. So a lot of times young people and their families feel more proud that they've earned a high school diploma as opposed to going to the adult school. Generally, there are less credits required in adult school. Both of them will still get you into a junior college or a trade school. But honestly, most students just really want to earn what's considered a traditional high school diploma, walk across that stage, and feel that sense of empowerment.
I would imagine it provides not only the credibility to the employers that we focus on so much here, but also credibility amongst your own family members, and even credibility and self-respect amongst yourself.
Exactly. You know,
Daniel, I want to talk about that. I want to get to your story, but actually, we told everybody they can email, and they already are. So I'm going to go ahead and take an email. Question from Kate of Palm Springs. Could you explain how Comeback Kids helped you graduate when your local school could not? What made the difference? Actually, let's start at the beginning. You had quite the difficult road getting through high school, did you not?
Yes, I did. I struggled a lot basically just with English and getting along with other kids. I mostly just tended to be by myself. And so I figured, well, I felt more comfortable signing because my mother was deaf and still is. And so I just felt comfortable signing. And I did not grasp on the English aspect of going to school.
So it's true to say that in your case, English is your second language.
Yes.
You can actually sign
Yes.
better than you can speak English.
Yes. And I enjoy signing because it's comfortable. And it gives me the sense of empowerment for me rather than having to say something. And signing has been my life, and I enjoy it.
Daniel, you told me something before that kind of astounded me, and that is, where were you before you found Comeback Kids?
I was currently homeless when I entered the Riverside County, and basically there was no hope for me, and I felt like just giving up. And what happened was that I went to an emancipation coach of mine and told her what was going on. And Sheila, the assistant of the program of Comeback Kids, stepped into Whitney's office and says, well, let's talk. I hear you only have 10 credits to graduate. And I was like, yeah, I just have 10 credits, but you know, I need to go to adult school. She goes, no, we found another way. And that's where Comeback Kids have now, I've been able to get into the program. And because of the one-on-one teaching with the teacher that I have and the mentoring and the pushing to get that diploma, I'm now able to get it on May 29th and graduate.
I'm going to go back to you and we'll hear more of your story. He mentioned one-on-one teaching. Can you tell me about that? How is that different than the typical classroom environment?
Okay, well, most of our students will say that when I was in high school, you know, there's 25 to 30 students in a classroom, and sometimes I just couldn't get my questions answered. And our students, it's really personal. Our teachers call students, they mentor them over the phone, they mentor them in class, and they set up weekly appointments. Each student really has about an hour with their teacher one-on-one. More time, of course, but for sure each student has that 1 hour, and that's huge in the life of young people who have sometimes struggled through high school or struggled through education.
I mentioned in the opening this idea of the flexible schedule. Tell me a little bit about that.
So students will set up a schedule with their teacher to come in weekly, and then they can also attend and go through some workshops when it comes to studying particular subjects or for state testing that's required. So there just is a lot of flexibility. If a student works certain hours, then they can come in the later hours of the day. And then we offer some after-school time too, where they can use our labs. So there's just more resources, more time, more connection with teachers. So
is this an environment where they can intentionally drop out of their senior year, which is tough, and they're required to be there, and just throw their feet up on the couch and watch Jerry Springer and then just come in, an hour? How do you make sure it's rigorous enough?
Good question. We review our curriculum and we make sure that our students are required to meet the same kind of standard education that they do at the traditional high schools. And so we hire the right people. We hire teachers who are well educated and want to work with this type of population. But they all have backgrounds in general education as well as special education.
Daniel, you were telling me about the one-on-one teaching, and I know in your life it made such a difference to have that personal connection. Did you experience that in the normal high school system?
No, I did not. Most of the teachers, when you would walk in the class, they'd be like, well, there's 30-odd some kids, and, what's the point on one-on-one teaching? And so when you really would raise your hand and ask a question to really get the in-depth answer, you would get the surface answer. While the one-on-one teaching that helped me more was very influential. I mean, I asked questions where it was just one after the other, and I can continue asking and still be able to get answers that more or so that's in the book that I need to understand.
Okay. We already have another email, Lydia. Are classes for the comeback kids at the same time as normal high school classes? And if not, are they in the same location?
Okay, we have 12 locations across Riverside County, first of all. So we offer classes from the Riverside area out to Temecula, over to Indio, and all the spaces in between. So we offer classes within our own sites, our COE sites, as well as youth opportunity centers, and we're adding an additional site, so that'll be our 13th in Hemet. We already offer something in San Jacinto. And the second part of your question was?
Was the time schedule. Is classroom instruction at the same time?
Yes, we offer classes during the regular school day. And then we offer after school time for students who want to stay later. So from 3 to 7, we offer some additional time.
But your program is really going to where the students are instead of making them uproot their lives and come to some central location.
And that's exactly what has happened. We started out at just a couple of sites in 2008, and now we've really moved into many more places for students, better access for young people.
We talked a little bit about Gateway to College, and we reviewed it last week, and it's a wonderful program. Jill's doing a great job. Right. How would you distinguish your program from Gateway to College? Okay,
Gateway to College is a wonderful program, and we've actually had some students who maybe struggled in that program come to us. So in a sense, we're very much a partnership with Riverside City College, and our students sometimes, maybe they've just struggled with the time structure, and so we can offer a place that meets their personal needs just a little bit differently.
Is there a factor of the type of educational environment you're put in? In Gateway to College, you're put in actual college classes, which may or may not be appropriate to somebody who has the life circumstances that cause them to drop out of high school.
I think a lot of our students could handle that, taking the college classes as well as the high school credits. But again, it's just a different format, and we do take students on college field trips and really get them connected to that next transitional spot.
Danielle, I want to talk for a moment about somebody that was pivotal in your life. I know you were telling me about the fact that you didn't succeed in part because of your circumstances, where you found yourself homeless, for example, a mother who didn't speak. And then your other factor was the degree to which you credited yourself with being able to achieve your own goals. And somebody helped turn that around. And I'd like you to relate to our viewers that story.
The way that situation happened is I was on the Riverside RTA transit.
What is RTA?
RTA is Riverside City Transit.
Okay,
it's
a bus.
It's a bus. And he was a driver on the bus, and I was on his bus for a couple times just being really down on myself and really negative. I guess about the third time he came in and he turned around at a stoplight and turned around and looked at me and said, well, I want to talk to you when we get off the bus. Don't get off the bus. I want to talk to you. And that kind of really shocked me because I didn't know what the guy was all about. I didn't know what was going on. And so on later that day, he did talk to me. I got his card. Really just kind of blew it off, really. And several months later, I was thinking about my mom. And it sort of came to me was, it's your loss. Well, the next day I went to go talk to him. And he said those exact same words that I thought last
It's
night.
your loss.
You know, it's your loss. And I was like, okay, there's something really going to click with this guy. So he took us out to dinner and he made me a promise, was I will be there for you no matter what, and I'm going to help you.
Did you believe him?
At first I didn't. Well, then as soon as I avoided him when he said that, I avoided him for almost 2 months. And so finally we started talking again, and since then he's been a very impactful person in my life. He's pushed me to continue in my signing, and he's very encourageable with my signing skills and wants me to push to graduate. He's been pushing me to keep going to school and to do my homework, even though I don't want to do it, but he's pushed me to the point where that's where I needed to be. I needed to be pushed because at the time when I did come into Riverside County, I really was just basically just wanting to give up. And
you talked about signing and how he pushed you to take that more seriously as a career, because you'd been told that signing is a hobby. It can't be a career.
Before, I wanted to sign to other people. Anybody that I met that was in the grocery store, out just on the bus stop or whatever, and I would go and talk to them.
I have to confess, I wouldn't have understood you.
It's funny because it was a passion of mine, and I always loved it. There was something in me that was missing, and it was just signing. And I always felt passionate about it. I loved doing it. And I sat down one day and I said, well, I need to do something that has to correlate with signing. And people would just tell me no. My family told me it's just a hobby. You can't really make any money with it. You know, right now we just need you to find a job and work. Well, that didn't suit me. I just wanted to do something with signing. What Dale did, my mentor, he pushed me into continuing saying, no, it's not a hobby. It's the way you grew up. It's a life. And you can make money doing this, and you can help people. And so since then, I've been volunteering at a firm in Moreno Valley, and which I help interpret and assist a person that does sign language for 38 years, and I assist them in interpreting for the deaf.
And you've discovered that there's actually college programs
Yes.
for interpreters for the deaf
Yes.
that you can enter, but requisite on your May graduation. And that, between your mentor, Dale, and Comeback Kids, is enabling you to pursue the path that you didn't think was in your reach.
Yes, and I've been wanting to do that for a long time, and because of Comeback Kids give me the opportunity to get my diploma and to keep going forward, I've been able to see another college, which is Gallaudet University, which allows hearing students that know sign language and that wants hearing kids to go there. I've been wanting to go there for ever since my teacher's been talking about it. So I want to go do that, and then there's other colleges like Cal Baptist University that has the sign language program, and then also San Diego State University that I've also looked into.
I want to relate one more incident that kind of quantifies the struggle that you had in the regular school system, and I'm not trying to impugn the regular school system, but for you there was a mismatch. They didn't hear you. You gave me an example of when you told the administrators of the school that you wanted to pursue a path and that the current path wasn't working for you, and they wanted to meet your parents. And what did you tell them?
I was younger. I was probably in middle school, and they told me, well, what's wrong with you? You don't speak very good English. You just by yourself a lot. And I told them, well, my mother's deaf. Oh, we need to call her. And I said, well, you can't talk to her because she can't hear you. They thought that I was just joking and making fun of my mom, and I said, no, she can't hear you. Well, we need to have a parent-teacher conference. Well, during the, before it even happened, they had a Spanish-speaking interpreter there. They did not.
You had told them that they would need an interpreter.
Yeah, and a sign language interpreter.
And
they did
you
not
said sign
believe,
language.
And they did not believe me.
But they just took what you look like
Yeah.
and assumed automatically your parents were going to be Hispanic-speaking, Spanish-speaking individuals, and they brought a Spanish speaker as the interpreter.
And as my mom walked in the door and was signing to me, they were all shocked. They were like, we had made a mistake. And so I ended up being the interpreter for my mom. And I told them, I said, you guys need a sign language interpreter.
That's wonderful. We have another email. I'm glad so many people are interested and compelled by this program. Question from Shanna of Corona. If both parents work, how would the kids get to the location for the classes? By the way, thank you all for your emails. How would they get to the classes.
Okay, and that is a struggle for some of our students, and so we actually applied for a particular grant, and part of that grant we have as one of our goals to help students get to school, and that includes giving them a bus pass. So we literally will help students with bus passes to make it to school, because that is definitely a struggle for students in various areas of the county.
I know that does impact students that either have a single parent,
right,
who works, or both parent works.
And the bus goes by, but if you don't have money to pay for the bus, which brings me to another point, we do not charge for students to come to our program. So you can be in your early 20s, join Comeback Kids, and know that it's not going to cost you book fees.
Isn't that true of adult school as well?
No, adult schools generally charge students.
So you actually operate as a high school would.
Right.
But as you mentioned, you could be 20 years old. So tell me about the age criteria.
Okay. We decided, I've taught personally in many programs across the county with adult school students and continuation school students, general ed. And what I discovered is that oftentimes students just don't have the funding to get to those adult school programs. They don't have the resources for that. And so it works for these students to have that extra support.
I want to talk for just a moment, not in your case, Daniel, but you also catch kids that have made some bad choices in their life. They may be expelled or in the juvenile system. And the one-on-one teaching is a way to, I think, as I understand, really get connected to those students.
Right, and a lot of students will say, you know, I made stupid choices, I made bad decisions, and I ended up in juvenile hall. And so they might be 18 or 19 years old now, and then they find out about our program. And actually our teachers, many of them have taught in our juvenile court system. They've taught in programs for expelled students. So again,
so this doesn't rattle them?
Does not rattle them at all. And actually I was at a meeting, a partnership meeting, and one of the juvenile judges said to me, I love Comeback Kids. He feels like it's a place that he can suggest to students, give them our little card and make the recommendation that no excuses, you can go there and
so
finish.
It's not a prison. What do you require of the student to basically say, you can enter our program, I think you'll be successful?
Well, we require them to make a few steps, and that is to come to our orientation, to meet with us in either a large group or eventually into a smaller sort of screening process. And we just want to know about what their commitment really is. And we ask them to bring their transcript and to, you know, prove to us in a great conversation that you really are ready this time.
What about parents?
Parents are very involved. Yes, when we have orientation meetings, oftentimes, even for a 20, 21-year-old student, the parent is there encouraging their young student.
Daniel, we talked about what a wonderful program Comeback Kids is, but we also talked about Dale, your mentor, and you mentioned how pivotal he's been in your life. And how has that affected you? How has that changed what you want to do, not only in terms of being a person that uses sign language as an interpreter to help other deaf people, but you're watching the sphere of mentoring grow, not only from Dale, but now from you.
And what he does is he makes me feel confident in myself and to just push myself further. And he gives me the idea of failure is not an option. And the first time he used that to me was when we did something and I felt like I couldn't make it. He goes, no, it's just one option that you couldn't go through. So what it does is it gives me another way where I help other students in the program, and as in Comeback Kids, and we've talked amongst ourselves, and we talked about getting together and talking and see how things will work out, and just basically mentoring each other. And that's where I come into that program. And I've sat down with one of the 2 or 3 of the students there, and we've talked about how this program has impacted us, and as far as making ourselves feel confident in this program and what it can do to our success.
Thank you so much. We do have a caller, so let's go out to Richard of Corona. Richard, you're on the air. What's your question?
Hello.
Richard, are you there? You're on the air.
Hello.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm going to let Richard call back.
How you doing?
Or I'll tell you what. He did tell us that his question is, at what age is it too old to go back to school? For instance, if you're in your 60s, is it too old?
Oh, okay. If you're in your 60s and you call me, I will help you get connected to the local adult school because we only take students to age 24.
So 24 is your limit, but there are, in fact, programs.
Absolutely, yes. I've taught in adult schools and often had older adults want to finish their high school diploma for sure.
Okay. We talked about getting the kids in, and you can get them up to 24. These are kids that have dropped out of high school usually or are so many units behind they're not going to graduate.
Correct.
Do you have kids that actually drop the drop program?
Oh yeah. If you know how to drop out, you know how to drop out again, for sure. So that happens. You know, we have a student who is, you know, all ready to roll, very enthusiastic, and then 2 or 3 weeks into the program, they've sort of disappeared. And so the teacher will call them, make every effort to contact them and find out what's going on. And at a certain point, we might finally say to the student, it looks like you may not be ready this time, but we're not going to give up on you, so call us back in 6 months.
Really?
And sometimes it's just life, you know, life happens. So maybe it's a job or another personal responsibility that keeps them from attending regularly. But, you know, our arms are open. You know, we're ready to take them back eventually when they feel like it's the right time.
So you are, within some limits, I imagine, always there as a resource when they finally find the motivation and the ability to steer their life structure so that they can get it done.
And just like a good parent, we say, so how is it going to be different this time? We want to make you a little more accountable here, and what are you going to do? What's your buy-in? And, you know, we just ask them to sort of, you know, get serious.
Do you ever get frustrated with the kids?
Sure. in a kind way, you know, because we always want everyone to graduate. We want everyone to really meet that goal. And it's huge. I mean, still, people make a big importance on a college diploma. And what we really want to emphasize to society in general is that high school, first of all, is that really grand step that many, many people just really need to experience.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, many students have been positively impacted by Riverside's Comeback Kids program, and I'd like to take a look at a few of them.
Hello, my name is Debra Sacks. I'm the administrator of Comeback Kids, a dropout recovery program for the Riverside County Office of Education. I'd like you to meet some of our comeback kids.
When I was younger, my goal in life was to go to prison. That was the college I wanted to go to.
I'm 18. I have a son. He'll be 5 in July.
I was more interested in running off, ditching school, having fun with my friends, and doing my own thing. Really thought it wasn't going to affect me in the long term. Thought that I was going to be able to scrape by with the bare minimum and come out with the diploma. You know, I just really messed up.
Our comeback kids come to us for one reason. They want a better life, and they know education is the key to getting it. Each returnee is treated as a client, not a failed student. We provide one-on-one counseling and instruction through an individual learning and career plan tailored to each student's goals. Our vision at Comeback Kids is to reduce the dropout rate, one success story at a time.
I attended his graduation today. I am a proud mother today. He did it.
Well, we went to school with Comeback Kids and we caught up on all our credits. I'm nervous more than anything to walk across stage, but I'm excited to move on with my life.
There's obviously a lot of people around me who are in the same situation that I am, out there without diplomas, without GEDs, without the qualifications they need to find a good career and to just help their life out. And I'm going to go out after this and tell all my friends that I know who are in that situation, you know, there's a place for you that you can come and they'll help you out to get done what you need to get done to get on with your life.
I'd like to welcome a new guest to our studio, Jaime Quinonez. Did I get that right?
Yes, sir, you did.
Thank you, Jaime. You know, he's a graduate of the program, and he recently flew back from Texas, from Dallas, Texas, to share his story of going through Comeback Kids. So I want to thank you very much, Jaime, for being here.
Thank you for the invitation.
So tell me about it. First, you are obviously not in the program if you came from Texas.
No, not anymore. Yeah.
So what are you doing now?
Now I'm going to the college that I wanted to go to, but thanks to the program, I'm attending now in Dallas, Texas, and you know, just really enjoying the college life that I never thought I'd have, but thanks to the program.
So what are you majoring in?
Right now I'm studying music, but I want to pursue psychology and maybe even becoming a youth counselor.
Did you see yourself doing that, what, 2 years ago?
Oh, not at all. It wasn't even in the picture. It was a dream, but now it's a dream come true.
So when you graduated, you walked across and you were one of the student speakers.
Yes.
And you had to prepare your own speech, and you talk about comfortable with failure. Tell us about that.
Well, in that stage of my life, like I said, graduation wasn't even in the view, and I was really comfortable with failure. You know, I grew up with that sense of failure with my family issues, and growing up to be what I thought I was, just you know, your typical Hispanic person, your typical stereotype. But thanks to the program, I looked past that. I looked past my personal issues, and I looked really deep inside of myself to find the willingness to become more than what society called me to be.
I'm not going to let you get away that quickly. You fast forwarded past the difficult issue, and I don't want to really put you on the spot, but you're an example of somebody who just found it easy to not fulfill the work required. And once you got through Comeback Kids, you looked back and saw that, and you saw the path that you wound up taking, which is to fulfill all of those requirements. So tell me, what was going through your mind when you weren't fulfilling those requirements?
I had honestly a lot of depression because I didn't feel fulfilled in what I'd wanted to do in my own dreams, but a lot of a lack of self-motivation. I was really giving up on everything. I played sports during school, but I gave up on all my dreams, all my hobbies. So there was a big lack of oomph in my life. There wasn't that typical happy young teenager that you'd expect to have at that age. So there was a lot of downtime in my life during that time.
What was it like sitting in a classroom at a traditional high school?
Oh, it was nuts. Not wanting to be there, one of them. Boredom, because there was no, what's the word I'm looking for? There was no yearning to learn anything. There wasn't any energy to learn anything new. So it was just very dark.
Did the teachers see this in you?
I don't think so to this point, because the only time they paid attention to me was when I was getting in trouble. So
as long as you stayed out of trouble.
Exactly.
You flew under the radar.
Yes, under the radar.
Okay, and then how did you get into Comeback Kids?
Well, it was introduced to me by my mother, but as in my rebellious time, I didn't want to. I was really not for it, but I was introduced, and I met my teacher, Ms. Diane Gill, who's my first and only favorite teacher of the world now. But I met her, and I was introduced to the program, and like I believe any other now Comeback Kid, they were really against it because they were so used to failure and not going anywhere that they didn't want to do it. But as they brought it up to me, and they, how do I say this, they made me fall in love with the program. And I say that in a really good way, because they care about you. They showed a care that you don't get in a typical high school, and they showed that no matter where you came from or who you are, what color skin you are, you can
I'm going to pause you for a moment. The fun of live television is how many different directions we can go in, and we have a question via email. Merrill of Moreno Valley, thank you for emailing us. Do you, and I'm going to throw this to you, Deborah,
Okay.
do you offer career counseling after graduation?
Absolutely. We, our teachers will talk to students. They use an individual learning plan. We call it the ILP. And we start with the first day we meet our students and talk to students regularly about not only graduating and what's required of them, but also their personal interest and what are the options. And so we have a liaison, a person who helps us with that from the local colleges. And we literally take students on field trips, make sure that they know enough, and just help them and guide them through their post-high school plans.
Excellent. Jaime, I'm going to go back to you. You mentioned something in your graduation speech, and that is that you didn't allow yourself to fail at the same time you didn't allow yourself to succeed. Explain that.
Since there wasn't any motivation to try anything new, there wasn't even the chance to see what failure was. I'm a strong believer in learning from your mistakes, and I didn't even give myself that chance to learn anything. But through the program, I understood that even though they don't encourage you to fail, they encourage you to learn. And wow, it's been a tremendous change for my life, and here I am now.
So you've learned to take risks.
Yes, yes. I'm a strong believer in that. Change is really good. Personally, coming from a Hispanic culture, change is very difficult to accept. But once you pass that bridge, you understand that anything is possible.
How many people in your family, such as your parents, have graduated already?
My parents have, but I'm the first as the new generation to graduate from high school and now going to college.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, talk about for a moment, if you would, Debra, this concept of aging out in the traditional high school system.
Mm-hmm. Well, students are allowed generally to go 4 years to high school. So we call it aged out when they haven't finished, and yet their 4 years is over. I mean, and now the dropout rate is, you know, evaluated over when the student started as a freshman, 4 years later. Those students who finished, that's how the rates are calculated nowadays. So you know, it's...
So let's take just the quickest boring segue into finances.
Okay.
But what I want to talk about is the fact that schools are paid for the 4-year program, not for 5 years, even if they wanted to keep a student in for 5 years and the student was willing.
Okay, so we have some students who have what's called an individual educational plan. It's an IEP. They've been diagnosed as a special ed student sometime in their life. So when they ended high school, they still had an IEP. And so those students, we still earn the funding from the state to age 22. So not everyone has an IEP, and that's the big question. And we knew that, you know, we were going to get some of these students who were in their early 20s. So the reality is we do not earn ADA on those students who are aged out. But what we did do is in a grant 2 years ago, we included some part-time teacher salaries where we would be able to pay teachers to work with these students, but we would not get ADA. So, you know, it's...
And ADA is your per student funding.
Exactly, from the state. But you know what? It's just a charge that we have, and it's a request of our superintendent that we take care of these students, that we, you know, we kind of take on that Native American philosophy that, you know, we're all part of the village, and all the people in the village need to take care of these young people.
I've said it before, but it bears repeating in this program for our audience. We're not talking about 1 out of 20 students that don't fulfill high school requirements. The dropout rates, and there's some argument over the validity of the statistics,
right, but
across the nation it's measured every year, and it comes in at between 72 and 75% typically. California has gone for 72 to 75% graduation rate, but that means 1 out of 4 kids in California aren't going to get that diploma without programs such as yours.
Right, and when President Obama started in office, he made a big commitment to special funding for the high school graduation rate in the United States. And so we did apply for one of those grants and were funded, and so that has helped us with this issue of, you know, taking older students, helping more students finish high school, and being able to do that financially. So,
Jaime, how does it feel to be back in California, back seeing Debra in the program?
Wow, it's amazing. Feeling California breeze is amazing. But being back to a place where I grew up with a lot of broken dreams, and coming back to fulfill dreams is much better, and it's an amazing feeling. Thanks to the program and Debra.
Okay, now, you know, we are online. That is the Plugged Inland name. And we have a tweet from Gardino222. Debra, what made you start the program for dropouts, not one designed to help students before they drop out?
Just my own experience, knowing how many young people that I saw not finish high school, teaching for several decades prior to starting the program, and just seeing a lot of sadness out there and a lot of young people that just didn't have a place to go. And so, you know, it's just timing for me. I always wanted to do something like this, and I mean, Ken Young chose a committee of people who are super passionate, and I'm one of those.
I couldn't tell. Jaime, we're talking about how she got involved, but how do you see yourself differently now that you've gotten through the program? And as she mentioned, you walked. You actually got a real diploma, and you walked and graduated. You were even the speaker.
Well, I feel fulfilled. You know, sometimes we put barriers around ourselves, and with the program, it helped me overcome them and become the person that I didn't even know existed, person that can get somewhere and anywhere. So, wow.
That sounds too rehearsed. That isn't,
really?
Though. That's really how you feel, right?
Yes, it is. That fulfillment that no one can take away, that fulfillment that is mine and my family's for ever and ever. And it's a great feeling. And
so is it fair to characterize you as one of those kids, not that completely rebelled against the system, but rather just didn't see a visualized path for your future and how your high school connected to it because you weren't motivated, and then suddenly you began to realize, I'm assuming through maturity and age, that most of your goals were key to your high school diploma?
Yes, especially with the dreams that I had, it was specifically really key to have a diploma and also to have that sense of accomplishment in my life, which I really needed and I achieved.
Well, I'm glad you came out from Dallas.
Thank you.
From Dallas, Texas,
yes, sir.
Where I bungee jumped. Point of trivia. So I want to talk for a moment about the age disparity and some other factors that prohibit students from really wanting to get back into a traditional system. We talked a little bit about the fact that some of the students, they've gotten a little bit older and they don't want to go back into the traditional system, even if they were allowed to, because they feel awkward.
Okay, and there's a good example of that. We have students with IEPs. So it's a student who might have a learning disability. Really, that student, he or she, is entitled till 22, but they're 19 years old. They didn't quite finish all the requirements to graduate at their local high school. And, you know, oftentimes they'll come to one of our orientations and we'll say, hey, you still have that opportunity. We can help you get back. We'll help you with that. And they will say, I don't feel comfortable. And so if their disability is, you know, something that we can help them with, then for sure we have those qualified teachers.
So the one-on-one program gives them a sense of privacy, I'm imagining?
And it really is like students, for some reason, they walk in and there's just this culture that's very adult-like. They act like adults. I mean, Daniel explained earlier that groups of kids will just stand around and talk, and they look like a group of college kids, just having conversation, talking about the future. They're not acting goofy or silly, or it's just
not acting high schooly.
No, they're not acting high schooly at all.
How many of your students miss the entire high school experience to encompass the sports programs, the cheerleader, the assemblies, all the things that really your program does not offer?
Yeah, actually we started offering some of that this year. So we keep evolving our program, and we do have an opportunity for students, if they want to play some sports and to be involved in some senior activities. So we're getting to be more like a small high school with some of those social kinds of activities.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
Let's go back to another tweet. And this is from Gardino22. Jamie, congratulations on your degree. Jaime, the person knows how to spell your name.
Yes.
Probably from the screen. Jaime, congratulations on your degree. What does it take? What makes you feel that you know a college degree won't guarantee you a good career today? Let me rephrase. How does it make you feel to know that a college degree won't guarantee you a job? And that really talks about our economy. How many people that get a degree and are not employed?
Can you rephrase that question
Sure.
a little more simply?
The questioner asked, does it scare you, basically, to know that so many people that get a degree don't find employment?
It does naturally, but I think that now that I do have a diploma, that I can reach a college degree. Makes
the college degree students, though, are also not getting employed.
Oh,
I mean, there's a number of them that have their degree and are still not finding jobs.
I think there's always going to be ups and downs in life, and I think the main key is not to quit, because when you quit, you won't find out if you make it or not. So I would just personally give a suggestion to keep going, because that's what I did. I mean, maybe it's not the same as a college degree, but a high school diploma, there was ups and downs, but I kept going, and not knowing, but with my hard effort, I got a high school diploma, and I think it's just keeping in there. And
that was a great answer. Thank you for bearing with my stumbling over that. Thank you to our audience. Let's go to a phone. We have a caller, and that's Charles from Menifee. Charles, you're on the air. What's your question? Hi, Charles, you with us?
Yes, I am, and it's a very nice program. I'm happy to hear
I'm going to
you're
give a summary
doing
of that
work.
question too. And that is, what's being done for those who want a diploma and they have to go to work?
Okay. Well, we will try to, work it out, a teacher with the student who has a job. Sometimes we have to be patient for the student to maybe find hours in a job that meet, our program or our schedule. We have some teachers who will work later in the late afternoon, evening, so that we can help students. We're not an adult school, or we're not a night school program, but we do offer at 3 centers an opportunity for students to come later.
So have you found that they can get their employment fulfilled because they need an income very often when they've reached that age,
right,
and also graduate from the program?
Yeah, it's part-time. You're going to be meeting with your teacher more part-time, but it's still an opportunity, absolutely.
That's great. So how are you funded?
Some of our students really are not funded. I mean, we don't get ADA on some of those students. So
and ADA is the per student payment the state makes for every school.
So if they're out-aged and they're not in special education, then we're paying the teacher to be there, but we're not accumulating any ADA from the state on those students. But we're doing society a very important deed.
Okay, so what you're saying is the Riverside County of Education is undergoing a program where you know in advance you are not going to get remunerated from the state for every student that's in your program, but you feel it's so worthwhile that you're going to, how do you fund it? Self-fund, or what do you do?
And again, it's just some of the grant funding, and it's just the reality that we've made this commitment that we are still going to work with these overage students.
So how do you scale the program?
Good question.
I mean, you're growing by leaps and bounds already, and you're a very new program.
Yeah, and it's quite popular. We just hope that we have a bigger percentage of those that are the younger age. If they're older, we serve as a resource, so we will help them with some of the adult school programs if we need to.
So a lot of these innovative programs that have cropped up, I see them as kind of idea incubators, kind of a proof of concept. Once you've honed the system and you've shown that you can succeed as you are, it's kind of a best practices. Is there a way to transfer that back into the proper school districts?
That's what they're asking. Some school districts want to know, can we put a Comeback Kids classroom on our site? And I've talked to school district personnel who are very curious about how we got started and how they can do something similar. So we have been honored with a Best Practices Award a couple years ago.
And I didn't know that.
Yeah, and because it's pretty innovative, and so we've helped other county offices with the plans that we used so that they could actually do something similar in their own counties. I want to go back to the other question, and that is, how do we scale it? We are applying for an upcoming grant that will help us, another kind of grant funding for a charter type school. So we're hoping that will bring us some of the financial.
That sounds great. We have another email. Question from Annie of Hemet. What about lunches? Do students bring their own, or is there a cafeteria?
That's a good question.
That's a good question. At each site, there is lunch provided, so if students are there during that lunchtime and they qualify, then it's free. Yeah, if they qualify free and reduced lunch, yeah, we will provide that.
That's great. In other words, they're packing their lunch.
Yeah.
That's a good question. We talked about scaling, and this is really a problem, I think, for administrators to make a pivotal decision. do they keep these external safety net programs, such as yours, such as Gateway to College, or do they incorporate that more into the tapestry that is the high school experience for most students?
And honestly, I think every high school is trying to figure out the answer to that. And so they're offering online credit recovery. They're offering extra periods during the school day for students to take additional classes. They offer something on a Saturday or in the evening. So I think school districts are definitely trying to do that work and make sure that they can hold on to their students and help them through some of these challenges.
And online credit recovery, you're not talking about credit score here.
No. No.
You're talking about the number of units needed to graduate.
Right. And so in some cases you could be a senior and need, finish all the credits that, all your courses for your senior year and still be down 10 or 15. So most high schools have an online credit recovery, computer-based type program where students can access, even at home, a way to tally up those credits, do that work and test and
Is that really the case, though, that most of the students are only, say, 15 credits behind? Because that doesn't seem like so much. It seems like the people that drop out have really checked out and started getting Fs or absentee zeros starting in, say, at least their junior year.
Yeah, and we've actually met students who have never attended high school. So yes, there are true dropouts out there. From 8th grade, never made it to a high school campus.
Do they have any options available?
Yeah, well, if they're really young and they call us and say, I want to get into comeback kids, and I find out that they're, 9th, 10th, 11th grade, I will definitely try and help them navigate back into their high school. Sometimes they move to a new community or a district from out of state or out of town, and they feel like it's too late or it's in a weird spot in the semester so they can't enroll. So we help them, find that transition way back to their district.
Does that mean that if somebody's that far behind, you, in all cases, try to funnel them back into their native district, or can you actually take students for that duration?
Right. We take students at any age. And so if it's a student who, has just moved, we will suggest that they go back to the district, and we'll even make phone calls to help them with the transition. But oftentimes we might have a senior who wants to join us, and so we'll call the district and say, only with your blessing. If you don't want us to yet, and you want that student to come back, we're going to take them down there and help them get back in.
Jaime, what was the process like for you to get into Comeback Kids? The orientation, how far behind were you?
I was a lot more behind than 15 credits for my personal keep. But it was at my reach, transportation-wise, but I wasn't ready, so I thought. But it was difficult trying to get up early in the morning and take responsibility. But that willingness that gave me that energy to go back to school just made it a little bit easier.
But you were in their program for a bit of time.
Yes.
And you made it through.
Yeah, that perseverance helped me, and I made it through. And
that's a great story, Jaime. Thank you so much. I'd like to thank our guests, Debra Sacks, Daniel Carrillo, and Jaime Quinonez for being with us tonight. Next week, we'll look at online ed, education like you've never seen it. From soft skills to math and science, online education, the next great thing. I'm Roger Bowman. Thank you for watching Plugged Inland.